Is the audio muted on the sides? Because I don't need it.
For you.
Okay.
Catch. We try to think of everything.
What?
Time.
Yeah, there. Okay.
Taylor will welcome.
Perfect.
Spence will welcome.
We'll take it all. We got game time. You should definitely.
All right.
Is it the 8?
Oh, dang it. I'm using it to keep my thing where I can see them better. Good morning. Thank you. There we go. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome you all to the 33rd annual Spencer Fox Eccles Convocation. This is such a special way to start the school year. Each year, we are fortunate to hear from business leaders in our community who represent the values of the David Eccles School of Business. We also have the opportunity to recognize Spencer Fox Eccles and the entire Eccles family for their enormous contributions to the Eccles School. Today, I offer a special welcome to Spence and his children Hope, Lisa, Katie, and Spencer, as well as several Eccles grandchildren who are here with us today. On behalf of the entire university, I am pleased to welcome our speaker today, Cydni Tetro. Your imagination, innovation, and the trail you've blazed for women in tech exemplify so many of our Eccles School values, and they make you a perfect convocation speaker for today. Each year, we gather on this day to honor Spence Eccles for the vital role he played in working with his aunt, Emma Eccles Jones, to establish a $15 million endowment that has benefited this business school since 1991. That generous gift and the naming of the school pay tribute to Mrs. Jones' father and Spence's grandfather, David Eccles, one of the leading figures in the economic growth of the state of Utah and the Pacific Northwest at the turn of the century. We're honored that the David Eccles School of Business bears the name of this great entrepreneur. The David Eccles School of Business has experienced remarkable growth and achievement in the past decades, and a critical part of that has been a product of the Emma Eccles Jones endowment funding. This endowment gift has provided more than $23 million to the business school, funds that have enabled us to develop innovative programs, provide scholarships to top students, and to help retain and attract top faculty. It has been a catalyst for excellence throughout the school, and we thank the trustees of the Emma Eccles Jones Foundation who are here with us today. Spencer F. Eccles, Katie Eccles, and Robert Hatch. We are so grateful for your continued support and involvement. Thank you to the entire Eccles family for all you've done, not only to support this wonderful David Eccles School of Business, but the entire University of Utah. You've been a critical part of this esteemed institution and our entire state. I'm now pleased to turn the time over to our University of Utah president, Taylor Randall.
Thank you, Rachel, for that introduction. It's always good to be back at the business school. Welcome, everyone, today. This is the 33rd annual Spencer Fox Eccles Convocation, and I'm just happy to say Spencer Fox Eccles has not missed one of them. So 100% attendance. Before hearing from Cydni, it's my honor to introduce to you Spence Eccles. He graduated from the University of Utah in 1956 and then went on to Columbia Business School to get an MBA. He became chairman and CEO of First Security Corporation, which before its sale to Wells Fargo was the largest bank in the Intermountain West. It had branches everywhere and was known for its generosity and charity to the community. Spence recently had a birthday. What number was that? Was that 89, 25, 26, 27, somewhere around there? Anyway, happy birthday, Spence. Give or take a few. We're always glad to celebrate those great days. As president of the university, I first and foremost am certainly grateful for his generosity to this business school and for all that's been done here, but also the university in general. We recently named a medical school, the Spencer Fox Eccles School of Medicine. In fact, Mike Good and I have gone through the records here nationally. I think it's the only medical school and business school that has a similar naming family. Is that right? I think we've got that. So unique in both generosity and the name of these two schools, and both strive for excellence, top 10, with unsurpassed societal impact. Anyway, Spence is known for giving throughout the community. There's no greater philanthropist in our community. Even at this young age, if you see him in his red car, it's still accelerating, and we appreciate that. Anyway, I'd please welcome a man who always gives 110% and who is eternally optimistic, and the best is always yet to come. Please welcome Spence Eccles.
He forgets to call it the Ute-mobile that it really is, I must tell you. Well, good morning, folks, and I want to thank you, Dean Hayes and President Randall, and thank you, President, for that gracious introduction for this Ogden boy. You know, I'm just down here trying to get another degree. As always, it's great to be here, and I'm thrilled to participate in this, the 33rd year Spencer Fox Eccles Convocation. You know, each year at this event, I reflect on the accomplishments of my grandfather, David Eccles, and generosity and foresight of his daughter, you've just heard, my Aunt Emma Eccles Jones, and her foundation, whose endowment in his honor continues to enrich this school today, as you've just heard. So at this annual event, we celebrate David Eccles' legacy and his entrepreneurial spirit and integrity and character and business savvy and tremendous work ethic. And we do so by hearing from other outstanding business leaders who share some of these same attributes. In the years past, we've heard from remarkable business leaders, Bill Marriott, Gail Miller, Dave Rubenstein, and Utah Jazz Ryan Smith, just to name a few. And today, we're honored to add to that list of our 2023 convocation speaker, Cydni Tetro. And a remarkable and inspiring entrepreneur and leader in the tech industry who continues to make her mark right here in Utah's Silicon Slopes. But summing up a person like Cydni in only a few words, it isn't easy. She's not only an innovator and a nationally renowned technology leader, but she's also a record-breaking fundraiser, a consumer visionary, and a true trailblazer for women in technology who founded the Women Tech Council. Cydni's been the CEO of Brandless since 2020, but before that, had founded a 3D printing software platform and a digital experience company as well. She also spent 6 years at my favorite place, Disney, where she built tech business inside the company, including its theme parks and ESPN and ABC, and in her work, she has truly helped transform customer experiences for the better, make a positive difference for all of us who deal in technology in any way, shape, or form. And that's just about everybody in this room. So as you're about to find out firsthand, Cydni is a highly sought-after speaker and educator who is a faculty member of the Goldman Sachs Small Business Initiative, and she's been a featured speaker here on the U campus in the College School of Computer through its joint program with the business school to help all students, no matter what their major may be, to develop digital literacy, so to speak, something that I'm working on, I must tell you. I didn't mean to mention that. With her bachelor's degree in computer science and MBA and BYU from Marriott School of Management with my son, Spencer Eccles, we're proud to give her a warm, crimson welcome to the University of Utah and the David Eccles School of Business. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Cydni Tetro.
Okay, did my mic go on? Is my mic on? Yes. Okay, is that better? Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, it's really good to be here, and that was a very nice introduction. Thank you. And it's really an honor to be here, and thank you for the commitment to this school and the legacy that you and your family have created. It is remarkable and extremely generous. So thank you. I'm honored to have an opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you today and just share a few insights. So as I was thinking about what I could share with you, I'm taken back to a couple of ideas that I got inspired by during my time at Disney. And I'm going to kind of frame the things that I talk about you today from some of the things that I've learned over the course of my career. And as I was thinking about all of you in this place that you're at, in this amazing university, on this fabulous education journey, and all of the things that you have in front of you, what were the things that I could say that you could think about that might inspire you on the journey that you're taking? So first of all, I have a question for you. How many of you think of yourselves as an explorer? Okay, well, by the end, everyone better think of themselves as an explorer along the way, because you're at this amazing point in time where you get to explore everything. You explore education, you explore opportunity, you get to explore the possibilities of how you're shaping your life. There's not a better place to be when we're starting our lives and when we're gaining our education. And you all have this amazing opportunity. So let me tell you a little bit about where this blue sky idea came. So I took this picture from my backyard the other day as I was preparing for this talk. I want you to think about a blue sky. It's a beautiful day today. And when you walk out, what do you see when you look at a blue sky? Anyone want to take a guess? Hope. It's a great definition of that. You see things like hope. You see unlimited possibilities. Are there any barriers in the blue sky? There are no limits. You can literally see forever when you look into the blue sky. That's an amazing way to approach life. that you can look at something with no limits and all possibilities and become anything that you could possibly become in any situation. When I was at Disney, there was a group called the Blue Sky Group. And do you know what that Blue Sky Group's job was? It was exactly that, to think about every possible thing that we could solve with no limits. What would transform the guest experience if we could do this? Let's not think immediately about financial constraints or the reasons that it might not work or all the technology innovation that we might have to do. Let's just think about what would be possible if we did this one thing. And for me, that philosophy has become the cornerstone of how I think about things, about how I embrace life, and about how I believe that we can unlock what our potential is. So I wanted to share with you today kind of 5 mindsets that I think if you embrace, allow you to really craft the life, the experience, the relationships, all of the things that all of us want or that we're trying to pursue in this life. So the first one is this idea of limitless imagination. Okay, I was an Imagineering, and I love Imagineering, and I love this idea that you can be imaginative and that you can do so without limits. So one day we had an idea, which was, what would be possible if people just didn't watch nighttime spectaculars? They were part of the show, that they were an active participant in what was happening on stage, and that there was no limit to who they could become. This was a project that I got to launch at the opening of Cars Land, where all of the glow merchandise that you would buy, particularly the Mickey ears in this case, interacted with the show control system and created a fully immersive experience. Now, this came from a blue sky exercise, one where we stood in a room and we said, what would be possible? What is without limits? Where can our imagination take us if we created something? And we thought we should do something like this. I remember Bob trying on the ears in our R&D open house, and us saying we should launch this in 8 months. And just taking on this challenge. Now, what this entailed was making Mickey ears with PCBs that were fully programmable, creating devices that shot IR into those ears so that you could identify each one and have it do something different as you watched the show, all the way to integrating with the show control system. And we didn't think about all the reasons that it wasn't going to work, like the fact that Chinese New Year was right in the middle of our shipping time frame, or the fact that we had to invent PCBs, or there was going to be a blue dye shortage in Mongolia. We didn't think of any of those things. We just believed that there was an idea, and we jumped in and we went for it. And we let this limitless imagination idea become the way that we approached everything. This one experience that I had jumping into all of this blue sky thinking has now become a critical foundation for me. I will take any problem, and I will imagine the what if with no limits, even though eventually I'm going to get to them, just because it's the way you solve big problems, and it's the way you think about it. And if you think about your life and opportunity in that way, you will uncover things you never thought possible before. The next mindset that I want you to think about is being an architect of possibilities. It is my favorite question. What would be possible if? What would be possible if we could solve this problem? What would be possible if this didn't exist? So I'm going to give you 2 kind of quick stories that encapsulate this for me. When I was doing my undergrad, I did it in computer science. And I was one of 3 women graduating from my computer science class. Now, I did my minor in dance. The opposite thing was true in that. But I needed this balance in my life between those 2 disciplines. But I really didn't know what I wanted to pursue. And so I put my resume in with 100 companies. I did 100 job interviews in my senior year of school. I flew all over the country. I tried to figure out what I was going to do. And then I also decided to take the GMAT and the GRE and apply to grad school, because who knows what possibly could I want to do. Well, over the course of that, what you find is a bunch of people are going to tell you no, they're not going to give you the job offers. And I knew that I'd apply to some schools that wouldn't accept me, and maybe none of them would, and maybe I wouldn't go pursue my MBA. But you know what ended up happening? That in the exact same week, I got my acceptance to the BYU daytime program for the MBA program. I got a job offer from a company. And I went to that company and I said to them, if I come work for you, will you work with my daytime schedule? And so for 2 years, I went to school full time, and I worked full time, and I built my career. And what I will tell you is none of that would have been possible had I not just opened all the doors, had I not been open to all of the possibilities. Knowing some things I'd get rejected, I wouldn't get into some programs, I wouldn't get all of the things that maybe I could imagine, but it didn't stop me from just architecting what could be possible. I believe that's one of the things we have to do, is open ourselves up to both rejection and the possibilities of what can become when we pursue things. For me, this has also then woven its way through other career decisions that I've made. So this company, 3D Plus Me, that we started, you could literally become Iron Man. That was the company we built. And so we built this software system that scanned your face, and then it could make you an action figure. So we had the Star Wars license, the Marvel, Major League Baseball, the NFL, Major League Soccer, Halo, Assassin's Creed. You name an IP, we probably did some deal with them. But that's not where the art of the possible came from. This idea that you can architect possibilities. So just one quick story. When I was building this company, we first launched it at Comic-Con in San Diego. So Comic-Con in San Diego, it's like the cool Comic-Con. Like everyone goes there. It's a completely crazy experience and super fun. If you get a chance to go, you should go. It's not like any other one. And I was at Comic-Con, and I had an install. And we had just launched Marvel. So the Marvel.com guys are over. They're filming us. We have these lines down the way. And at the time, I was only selling 3D printed collectibles. So you had to buy yourself in a full-color 3D printed collectible. If you watch the latest, the latest Thor movie, which I think no one's seen, or no, Ant-Man, there's a guy named MODOK in there. So you should just go catch up on your Marvel. Anyway, we made him at that Comic-Con. He was our exclusive character. So we launched this, and after Comic-Con, I get a phone call from Walmart. And they're like, hey, Sid, this is end of June. Comic-Con's end of June. They're like, Sid, could you launch in Walmart for Superhero September? This is 60 days later. I'm like, oh, okay, yes. Okay, I always say yes. Like, totally, how much will you pay me? That was my first response. And so then I jump into, oh no, what am I going to do with Walmart? I've installed one experience inside of a Comic-Con, and now they want me to go to Walmarts across the country. And then all of a sudden I realize that I'm selling full 3D printed collectibles that are $150. And that's never gonna fly at Walmart, so I need a product that's sub $50. Okay, by now it's like June 10th, there's July 10th. And so I decided that I needed a toy. Come to find out, Hasbro owns the global toy license for anything in the Marvel world. So I need someone at Hasbro to like me, to know about me, and to agree to let me make superheroes in 60 days. So I find some guy on the internet, we Google, we find a guy, I call Kenny, I'm like, Kenny, I need a deal, I need this deal in, like, right now. And so he vets us. A couple weeks later, he's like, I'll agree to help you launch for Superhero September across Walmarts. And then we hit a million different decisions to make. So you can't get a product from China for custom 3D printed figures in 60 days. It's not even feasible. So we have to solve problems like that. Do you want to know how we solve that problem? Kenny shipped me all of the action figures for Iron Man and Captain America. We popped all the heads off. We created new custom heads. We put the heads on, we repackaged them, and we sent them to customers who purchased the products in order to have posable action figures. We had to build scanners and deploy them in Walmarts and train staff. We did all of this in 60 days. I look back on it today, I have no idea how we did that. No possible idea how we made that. But you know what we did have is a mindset of anything was possible. That every problem that came in front of us, and there were a million. Like, I didn't really think I was gonna pop off heads and put O-rings on them and attach new 3D printed heads that were color matched and put them in new packaging. Didn't think I'd spend my evenings doing that, but we did. And we had this amazing experience by rolling into those Walmarts, because if we said no, the work's too hard, we'll never make it happen at the very beginning, the next time the Target called me, they never would have called. The next time I wanted the expansion and Hasbro built a real customized toy line for us, it never would have happened. If you don't take advantage of those things that come, you do not architect possibilities. And you have to sit in that driver's seat. You have to be willing to do all the things and take down every problem that comes at the speed of the world. And then when you do, you get really magical things that happen. You get to transform people into their favorite characters. This led us to the Super Bowl, to the World Series, to installs all over the country, to all of the things that would never have been possible had I not been willing in that moment to say, we're going for it. And if you're willing to do that, you have a mindset that lets you tackle anything. I don't know if I could have tackled that in 60 days today, just to be honest. And at my house, I have vases of all the heads that I popped off that I'm never getting rid of. Just to be very clear. Someday I'll make a sculpture, I've decided, but not yet. I haven't made a sculpture yet. The next mindset that I want you to think about is being an opportunity hunter. You have to hunt for the opportunities. You have to be open to them. So there's two things that I want to share with you on thinking about opportunities. So at Brandless, one of the things that we have done is acquired 6 companies over the last 24 months and catapulted really significant growth inside of the company. We acquired a company that has one of the top base plant proteins in the world. And I was thinking about opportunity, thinking about a very specific thing that's happened over the last 6 months. So we really wanted to get into retail. And I didn't have anyone on my team that was in retail. But I got a call earlier this year from a woman that I launched my Toys R Us and FAO installs with at 3D Plus Me. And she was the person who helped me do those. And she called me and she's like, hey, Sid, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing next. Can I just talk to you? So I picked up the phone and we'd had a quick chat and was like, she's the person that I need to jump in and run retail. In the last 90 days, she has created more opportunity than anyone has in 24 months with no direction, just telling her the way that we're trying to go, and with her just jumping in. When I think about someone who is 100% an opportunity hunter, it's Mindy. Like she hasn't gotten stuck by all the things she didn't know. She just jumped in. She created every deliverable she needs. She's had every conversation that she needs to. In the course of 90 days, that's taken us into commitments from places like QVC and Costco, the big retailers around the country, every place that you can imagine. I use this photo because in that same time, we did a partnership with the Airstream guys to wrap some of the trailers and take them to experiences that are tied to athletes. All in no time at all. Why? Because she's willing to just jump in without direction and just run with the things that are in front of her. We're all faced with moments like this. Do you wait for people to tell you what to do? Do you wait for people to open the door and like push you through? Or are you the one who's willing to say, I'm gonna make things happen. Someone gave me this platform, I'm all in. You have to be all in on the things that you want to make happen. And you know what, sometimes they fail. They don't work out. But that is not the thing that matters. The thing that matters is that you tried in the first place. And then it will keep unlocking doors and it will keep giving you opportunity. This also for me has related across my career. So for one of my companies, I decided, actually at 3D Plus Me, I decided that I wanted everything in entertainment, everything in sports, and everything in gaming. Do you know how many people I knew in the sports industry? This many. I didn't know anyone in the sports industry. Never. I had one friend who I had helped him with a company where we were trying to, this was pre-having connectivity in stadiums. We launched a company where we could deliver food to your seat. It was like the extent of my network when it came to sports. But I wanted all of the big sports guys, and I didn't know anyone. And so that has never stopped me, as evidenced by the Hasbro deal. I'm like, oh, I've got to know someone who if I call, maybe they'll take me in. So I called my friend Nate. I'm like, Nate, I need the NFL, the Major League Baseball, the NBA, and Major League Soccer. Can you help me out? At the time, Nate had just taken a job with the NFL, and he walked me in to every one of those companies and gave me the first meeting. Now, what happened after that first meeting? 100% up to me. Did I deliver a pitch? Could I add value? Could I close the deal? All of those things. Those were up to me. But he opened all of those doors, but he only opened them because I asked. He wasn't going to watch my company and say, oh, I think Sid could go do a deal with the NFL. He was never going to say that. But when I picked up the phone and I said, this is the specific thing I need, will you help me? Because when A built a relationship and I was willing to ask, I was able to find those opportunities. Eventually at the NFL, we did the Super Bowl, which was amazing. We could make you your favorite Super Bowl player. We had an install at Yankee Stadium with the Major League Soccer and with baseball. We did all of the All-Star games. We did all of the World Series. All of that was possible because I was willing to go after the opportunity. So you have to make your own way. You have to have the mindset of I can hunt opportunities, I can ask the questions. And guess what? Some people said no. Some people didn't let us go further, but it wasn't because we didn't try. You always have to try. You always have to be moving forward in order to accomplish the things that you want. The next one I want you to think about is being a relationship transformer. Relationships are the most important thing you will build over the course of your life, in your personal life and in your business life. People are the key to everything that you want to do, and how you treat people, how you interact with people, and what you do to help others on the way. That is what it's about. I mean, the Eccles family is an amazing example of this. They've spent all of this time giving back to thousands of students. because they know that it's the thing that they can use time, resources, and talents to make a difference. We all have the same opportunity in our own ways to decide how we use the relationships we create to make a difference for the world. That is our responsibility. And it shows up time and time again. So as I mentioned at Brandless, we've done a ton of acquisitions. It's been our growth strategy. And we created this philosophy of relationships that we call bolster, don't break. So we buy companies. There's amazing entrepreneurs who have built these businesses. And those entrepreneurs have built great businesses that they put their heart into in order to build. And then we're buying them. And sometimes when people buy companies, they buy them for financial arbitrage, and they eliminate a bunch of people, and they put them in order to create growth, which is one strategy. But we took a strategy of those businesses are growing because people are doing something amazing. How do we lean into those people and lean into their talent and build around them and drive growth? For me, that philosophy extends to everything. How do you bolster and not break people? How do you make sure that when you're stepping in, whether it's a group case study that you're working on, or a job that you're stepping into, or some social impact you're trying to create, how do you make it better? How do you lean in and do things that leave all of those people better than before you got there? And not because you expect something in return, but just because that's how you show up. When you do that in relationships, time and time again over the course of your life, it's what opens doors. It's what creates opportunity. It's what allows you to do things you never thought possible because you leaned in creating those relationships. Over the last couple of years, I've created this philosophy I called One More. So the woman in the white who has the Olympic medal, her name's Shannon Barkey Happy. She won 2 Olympic medals. She's been an Olympian 3 times, and she's a really good friend of mine. And we took a bunch of high school girls skiing for one of the programs that I run. This is on the run where she won her medal, right above that. And she and I were talking about her training for the Olympics. And she was telling me that one of the things that she decided to do a decade before she went to the Olympics was that every time she worked out, she would do 1 more. So her philosophy was 1 more push-up, 1 more squat, 1 more sit-up. And in turn, that made her really strong. It seems really small. Sometimes that last one, right, it's brutal, and you have to do it anyway, but it is just 1 more of something that you're already doing. It's just 1 more thing that you can do. She said, that's how I became strong. That's how, by the time I got to the Olympics, I had an opportunity twice to win these Olympic medals. And as I thought about that, and in the course of my conversation with her, for me, it translates to what we do every day in our life. I call it the rule of 1 more. This idea that in the everyday world that we live in the everyday things that we're doing, we have an opportunity to do 1 more. We have an opportunity to do 1 more thing that we're doing every day to help someone out. In the course of business, sometimes that looks like letting 1 more person come to the table in the meeting of a room they might never get into. 1 more person coming to a networking event that they never would have had access to had you not invited them. 1 more person taking a stretch assignment. 1 more person that you should have said hello today, or when someone asked you to do something and you didn't have enough time, you passed it to someone else who wasn't going to get the call for the first time. Those 1 mores, they build relationships. Those 1 mores, they build the foundation for how you make a difference for other people. Because we all do things every day. We just forget sometimes to think of other people because it takes too much energy. But it doesn't really. I have tried over the last couple of years to just weave this into my everyday thinking. When someone calls me and I don't have enough time to go sit on that board or attend that meeting or show up, I pick up the phone and I ask someone else to go. The other day I was talking with one of my friends and she said, Sid, do you remember that one time when you called and asked for the Women Tech Council if I would go sit on one of the boards for autism? She said, yeah, well, that just unlocked the opportunity for my daughter, 7 years later, who's autistic, who needs to find a job. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time I gave it to her, but I knew she would do a fantastic job. But then years later, it makes a difference for her family. That one decision that was no more of a fleeting thought of who would be right for this makes a difference. If you do those 1 more things for the people around you, you build relationships that make the course of your life easier. I can promise you, every person that you interact with over the course of your life, you will interact at some future date. And how you've handled those relationships will matter. What you did for those other people, it will matter. They will come back to you, and they will allow you to either pursue opportunities or not. based on what you did to help other people along the way in all of your interactions. The fifth one that I want to talk to you about is this idea of being a goodness builder. You can tell from my philosophy on relationships that I firmly believe that part of our responsibility is to make sure we maximize people's talents and time in order to leave the world better than it is today. We all get to build careers, but we're no longer building just jobs. We're building things that allow us to leave legacies, and allow us to make sure that in our families and our communities, in the world, whatever our sphere of influence is, that we left it better than where it was when we first came. And to do that, you have to be intentional. You have to be intentional about where you spend your time and how you show up every day and how you allow others to take advantage of that. And it will show up in all sorts of ways. So a couple of years ago, in 2021, right as the pandemic was kind of transitioning, I had an opportunity to go to Africa. The woman who has the curly hair up there, about 20 years ago, she was living in Silicon Valley, and she felt called to go help the people of Africa. She sold everything that she owned, and she knew no one. She didn't know one person in Africa. She just felt like she was supposed to go there. So Teresa, she literally is like Mother Teresa in her philosophy. She's selling everything, and she happens to be selling this bed. And a guy comes by, and he says, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" And she said, "I'm headed to Africa because I'm just supposed to go there." He's like, "Well, I'm from Zimbabwe. I know a guy that you should meet when you go there." Gives her her card. She heads there. 30 years later, she created an orphanage. She had 26 kids in the orphanage that she decided she would just spend her life basically raising. She provided food, medical coverage, education for all 26 of those children for their entire lives. And she just committed her life to this. And when I was over there, I was in awe of her commitment to just helping other people. She's since had 2 little kids in her early 40s and has transitioned to the group that we went to, which was helping all these young women get out of poverty by teaching them technology skills. And we were in Moshi, which is at the base of Kilimanjaro, teaching these young women. But as I watched her, and as I've thought about the places that we lean in, we all feel called to do certain things. For me, part of my calling has been around the Women Tech Council and figuring out how to increase the number of women in technology from high school to the boardroom. And I spend a lot of time doing those things because I know that I can make a difference in my sphere. But we all have places where that we can lean in to being a goodness builder, where we can lean in to doing things that allow us to give back, that allow us to make a difference in the world. And I, time and time again, have had experiences where this has been true. This is another experience I had. So when I was building my 3D printing company, 3D printing was all the rage. And if you think about places that you can create impact, so this is a story of a young man who was in the Sudan. And he lost both of his arms, and thousands of kids do, to the mines that are in the ground over there. And in the 3D printing world, the coolest part about 3D printing is we get to make things on demand. Like, you know, there's one in the space station, because when they break things, they can just make them on the printer. That's super cool. And we're thinking about it in medical transformation. So this story was called Not Impossible Labs. And they took a 3D printer over to the Sudan and all of the computers in order to say, we can make prosthetics for children who have lost their limbs on demand in places where prosthetics are expensive, children grow, and you don't have the ability to be able to provide them with high consistency. So the MakerBot was taken over there, and they started building this hand that could be fully functioning. And they built it on a 3D printer. And Daniel is the first one. So he's lost both of his arms. He hasn't been able to feed himself for, I think it's been 3 years. And this is the first time that he has an opportunity to have innovation that allows him to feed himself for the very first time. It allows him to take and use innovation and the talents of the other people who went in order to completely change his life. You think about where you get to spend time and energy. For me, I spend it in technology and innovation because I love it. But what I love is that it lets you do things like this, that allows you to create change in very specific ways that is meaningful for people. So not only did they help this one young man, but they left the 3D printers, and they left all the technology, and they educated entire groups of people so that when they left, other kids could have the opportunity to have prosthetics and be able to do this. He can even catch and throw a ball, something he hasn't been able to do for years. And so when you think about the possibility of what we can do and how we spend our time and talent and resources, we all find ourselves in the course of our careers the opportunity to also give back while you do things of building your career. For me, that's been a hallmark of a mindset. I'm not just going to build a career in isolation. I'm going to build it, and as I go, I'm going to help other people so that their pathways are not as hard as mine, so that they have opportunities that maybe I didn't have, simply because it's the right way to spend your time and your energy and your talents. And for me, it's a mindset. And I think this collective idea that there is this mindset that you can create, that you can think about a world as a blue sky, asking yourself these questions of what is possible? How do I see the world with no limits? I don't think of my financial constraints or my time constraints or my talent constraints. I just imagine what's possible. Because when you do that and you throw that out there, you somehow make it happen every time. When I teach in the Goldman Sachs program, time and time again, I do the blue sky exercise. And I ask them to think of the most spaced out, crazy, like wacky ideas that could transform their business. And every time they write them down and they didn't believe them. And then 50% of the time, they have accomplished them 2 to 3 years later. Because they simply saw that you could change the way that you see, and you could overcome the capital constraints that you felt, the time constraints, the talent constraints, the situational constraints, that you can open those doors. My Disney Foundation, it gave me this view that there are unlimited possibilities in the blue sky, and that if we take that approach, we will find things that we never knew were possible. But it takes a totally different mindset. You can decide to shut your own doors. You should never do that. Be open to everything. Someone else will shut them for you. Someone else will make sure that you don't get a different job, or they'll close something. But it won't be because of who you are. You will have enabled everything that is possible. And for me, that has led to not a straight line of opportunity, but a line of opportunity of learning and things that I needed at certain points in my life because I've been open and willing to say yes at any given time. So my takeaway for you is have this attitude of curiosity and exploration. Like, be an explorer, be open, say yes, go after all of those possibilities, care a lot about people, care a lot about giving back, and the collection of those will allow you to do everything that you want and everything that is possible for you. Thank you. Yep.
We have about 10 minutes for questions for Cydni, so let's go ahead and take some questions from the audience.
Yes. So her question was, has there ever been times in my career path where like my positive outlook has been challenged? 100%. I don't know how you escape that, right? And in the course of life, how you could not escape that. I shared a little bit about this earlier, but one of the things I've done a fair amount of in the course of my career is fundraising. And as a female in the fundraising space, it's really hard. Like, my shot at raising capital is significantly less than my male counterparts. It's only like 2%. So if you know math like me, you're like, okay, fine, 98% of the people will tell me no, but 2% have got me, right? Like, they're gonna say yes. Someone just forgets to tell you that when 98% of the people reject you, it's really hard. Like, when you pick up the phone and 98 people tell you no, or tell you maybe you're not good enough, or the way you structured your team's not good enough, or what they're investing in doesn't match what you want, it is the most grueling process that I've been through. Because when you're running a company, people's jobs depend on you. When you're building things, all of your customers, your ecosystem, your stakeholders, they rely on me every day in the decisions that I make. So when you go and fundraise, and even though you know math, you also know all of those other things exist for you. There were some points when I was raising money for one of my previous companies that I decided I would not look at my email until after I got to work, because I couldn't handle all of the rejections that were coming in inside of that. And I feel like you have lots of moments like that in your career where you get to decide how you'll handle them. Today, my job, I think I have 1,000 emails. Like I looked at my Slack last night, I had 90 Slacks that were DMs to me. How am I possibly gonna get through all of this? But my world is full of a crisis every day. And I've just fundamentally decided that I'm gonna manage by data, not emotion. And I'm gonna do everything possible to find a path forward. I'm gonna have really smart people around me, and I'm just gonna try to plow forward. And when those barriers come, which they do, I'm just going to be able to manage them. I'm much better at it today than I was early in my career, but I think some of that came from that opportunity I had to have such high rejection for something that I cared so passionately about and that people rely on. Eventually, we raised capital and sold the company, but it took like 6 months of living in that space, and it was a really difficult time. Other questions? Yeah?
Hi, Sydney. My name is Veronica, and
Do you want the mic?
thank you. Hi, Sydney. My name is Veronica, and I am a woman in finance. And my question to you is on your point number 4, relationship transformers, regarding the networking. How was the networking then when you started and when you imagined about opening your business and versus now? Like, how was the networking and what were the struggles that you faced and how did you overcome it?
I believe networks are really the key to opportunity. Like who you associate. The thing that's the hardest part about networking is showing up. So it takes a lot of energy to show up and meet people and do things. When I started my career, there probably weren't as many networking opportunities. But for me, my philosophy has been take advantage of every room that I get into and be willing to go say hi. Sometimes it's hard. It takes a ton of energy. You show up in a room, you're like, I have to go work this room and say hi to every person and just introduce myself and like tell a story. Sometimes you're like, oh, that feels like a lot. But it's how you meet people. And every so often, you shake someone's hand and you say something and they say something, and you're like, oh my gosh, we should have known each other for forever. Like, this is what I needed. And so the thing that you find and the thing that you have to do is put yourself out there. You have to be willing to show up. You have to be willing to take the time. It's the number one thing I see people not willing to do, because it's a lot. You have to balance a career, you have to balance a family, and you have to balance a network. And those things sometimes don't all work together perfectly. But the more you're willing to show up and take time, you have to decide the places where you think the people will be most valuable. And then you have to be willing to do the work when you get there. And if you're willing to do the work when you get there, then it creates this network effect over the course of your career. I think I told someone, I think I'm in the first 1,000 people on LinkedIn. Like, if you used to be able to look at like your number ID. But for me, network has been so critical. How do you continually build connections? Every call that I'm on, I connect with that person on LinkedIn. Every meeting that I walk into, I connect with them, because someday later, we're going to be connected back. Thank you. Yeah, in the back. Sorry, how much is success, like knowledge and other factors versus? Oh yes, this is the age. So his question was like success and effort versus, other things. Here's the deal. We have this conversation of luck all the time, because how many times do you say, oh, that person's like so lucky? Like right situation, right time. The deal is luck also takes work. No one's lucky. People show up in the right places, they take advantage of opportunity, and they do hard work. Every person that you see that's successful, they had to show up and they had to work. Now, sometimes that work put them in the right environment, but what we know from all of the data out there is that not only do you have to do work, you have to show up, but you have to be in the networks where those two things combined with that network create other opportunities you can't see. So the thing that you have to do when someone says that person's really lucky is remember that somewhere along the way, there was a lot of work that went in to creating success. And you really can't escape it. There is a lot of work to become successful in this life. I also don't define success just as monetary. Over the course of my career, I've had a family and I've built a career. And the balance of those two became extremely important to me. So much so that in the course of making career decisions, I've not taken some jobs where I probably could have made more money because they weren't going to work for my family. So I decided to put my family as my anchor and then build a career that worked for that, because those were my priorities. Everyone will have to make trade-offs. And ultimately, how you define success are based on the things that are most important to you and where you're willing to spend your time.
Hi, Sydney. Thanks for just a terrific message. I'm glad I'm here today. I want to ask if being in the state of Utah helped you be successful, or said another way, what could public policy leaders do to help people like you in this state? Because we need more people like you.
Well, thank you, and thanks for being here. You know, public policy, it's such a great question. The thing that you need access to, the way that we change the world is acceleration of opportunity. So we give more opportunity to people who either don't have opportunity or make it faster paths than what I've had to navigate. So how do we do that? Well, we have to invent ways, because it means people leapfrog what people in existing leadership positions think are the normal pathway. So we have to provide faster access to capital, faster access to network, more access to have more people solve problems. And it's a really complex thing to do, because everyone who's established wants the ways to stay the same. But you can't do that. Like, I need all of the young people who want to be leaders to have much faster paths so that we give more opportunity and we solve more problems. Well, that requires people to lean in more. It requires more education. It requires us willing to say, oh, you deserve a seat at the table, come faster. Like, I'll put you right here in this seat at the table in order to make those things go. And I think we can do a lot of things to make that possible. I had someone the other day say, in technology, everything's so fast. Like, you guys make decisions fast. The speed of business is fast. Everything is fast. And because of that, everything else has to be fast, but it hasn't caught up. You still need people with talent. You still need people with skills. But we have to find ways for policies to help everything become faster. Like, I know the only way I increase the 5% of women in technology leadership positions at executive levels is to advance other people faster. It's the only way I can do it. Otherwise, it will take me 100 years. And we don't have that long. So we got to lean in to be faster in our problem solving. Thank you.
We have time for one more question.
They got you.
Kyle's got one up here.
Oh, right here. They're bringing you a mic if you want. Yeah. Or just yell. So over the course of my career, how have I learned to process and overcome failure? So I live by this philosophy of test, optimize, test, fail, and optimize all the time. So it came out of my product validation world. So in the computer science world, or when we're building products, we have this philosophy of how do you reduce risk and fail fast? And so everything that I've approached in creating any organization, even the Women Tech Council, like, how do I test and optimize and pivot? For me, failure is only if you don't keep trying after you got the bad news. Failure is not that something completely blew up and didn't go your way. That is a guarantee in life. It is guaranteed, probably today, something will go like you didn't want it to go. That is my life, every day. But it's not about whether that one moment defines who I am and creates failure. It's about what I do from that moment. And for me, that philosophy of just how do you pivot? Got all this new data in, it didn't look exactly like I wanted. How do I then take that and move to a space where I can try the next thing? And do it sometimes. I fail a whole bunch of times. I don't know why, but when I was in the elevator, I was thinking about questions people might ask. And I had one of the things, my parents used to have this philosophy that they would say, losing builds character. And the reason they said losing builds character is after I ran for office 4 years in a row and I never made it in high school. And every year it was still devastating. And my parents would say, just remember, Sid, losing builds character. And so for me, this has become just a philosophy of life. It doesn't matter if I lose, it doesn't matter if I fail. I will lead me to some opportunity. And that has happened every time in my life. When something has blown up or not gone exactly the way it needed to, some other door opened and I was able to step through. And you just have to have that philosophy. Life is unpredictable, it's full of challenges, and fundamentally your approach to life is the way that you're going to navigate it. It will either swallow you up or you will find a way to just continue to pivot and it will lead you to opportunities you really can't imagine if you're not willing to just go for it. Seriously, thank you all for being here and spending your time today, and good luck with the rest of the year.
Thank you. 33 years. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Cydni. There were so many valuable messages in what you just shared with us, and we're so pleased that you were able to join us today. I'm a believer in the old adage, if you can see it, you can be it, and I think you inspire a lot of people with what you do. I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us today here in person, as well as our community members who joined us via live stream from all over the country. And with that, we are going to conclude this year's Spencer Fox Eccles Convocation. We look forward to seeing you at other events throughout the year, and as always, go Utes.